Dunkirk is written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It stars Fionn Whitehead, Harry Styles, Cillian Murphy, Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, and a bunch of other people. Dunkirk is a World War II film. However, this is not about the American side of the war. This film is about the Allied soldiers of Britain and France who are trapped on the Dunkirk beach. This movie is about the Dunkirk evacuation that took place between May 26th through June 4th of 1940. You see the story about the soldiers who are trapped on the beach and how they're doing everything they can to survive, and the civilians who had to go overseas to try to rescue these soldiers. It's an incredible true story that's not been taught a lot in the United States. And Dunkirk is a mainstream movie. It came out on July 2017. Funny enough, it came out 3 years ago today, so it's been 3 years already since this movie's been out. And this is the last movie Christopher Nolan directed prior to Tenet. Dunkirk is a World War II film, as I stated before. This is the first film that is based on a historical event that Christopher Nolan made. Because every other film that he's made up to this point has been either original, an adaptation of something, or a remake. And this is the first film that is based off of history. And this film is absolutely amazing. Dunkirk is, in my opinion, one of Christopher Nolan's best films. It's such a unique film when it comes to storytelling and war films. Let's go in depth and why I love Dunkirk. Well, first of all, I would like to point out that Christopher Nolan has this fascination with time. We've seen that in a lot of his other movies. Dunkirk is no different. This movie is told in three different perspectives. You have the soldiers on the beach, you have the civilians who are trying to go overseas, and you have people in the air engaging in dogfights. These three perspectives all have a certain time limit. The soldiers on the beach, that takes place in the span of a week. The people on the boat, that takes place in the span of a day. And the people in the air doing the dogfights, that takes place in an hour. They're all in separate different time frames, but it all meshes perfectly. And I think this film really utilizes the concept of time, and just the way it tells a story is so interesting. A fun fact about this movie is that the locations of this movie, it's actually the real location where the Dunkirk evacuation happened. And there's real sets, such as the boats are real, and the planes are real, and everything just looks so authentic. Christopher Nolan wanted to make this movie for a long time. There hasn't really been a mainstream movie about Dunkirk at all. There's that movie Atonement, which came out in 2007. It was nominated for Best Picture. And there's like a 6-minute sequence that kind of goes over what happened in Dunkirk, but there's never been a mainstream movie, at least in the United States, that was regarding the Dunkirk evacuation. Because prior to this movie, I had no idea about that this event even occurred. And it's a history lesson in that sense. But in addition to being a history lesson that is important for you to know about, this film is also so well made. You have the cinematography, which looks absolutely amazing. You have the sequences that are just so intense. This film is an hour and 47 minutes long, which is one of Christopher Nolan's shortest movie, but the runtime is perfect because this film is strictly about the event. This movie is criticized for not really having character development, but in hindsight, this movie is about just the Dunkirk evacuation event. When the movie starts, you're in it like that. And when the movie ends, it's the end of the battle. And I think it'd be unrealistic to have some scenes where one guy says, yeah, I have a wife at home and I have a kid waiting for me. Because, yeah, you can have scenes like that in movies such as Saving Private Ryan or Hacksaw Ridge, but I don't think Dunkirk was the point of that. Dunkirk is a film that makes you immersed in the experience, and you are the main character, basically, because you are with these people on the beach. And what's so fascinating about this movie, too, is if you've watched this movie multiple times, you probably would have realized that Hans Zimmer's score, which, by the way, is always fantastic, and it's great in this film, too, you notice that there's a clock ticking in the background. Always. Until, like, the last 10 minutes, the background is a clock that you hear ticking. Or I would say a watch, rather, because it sounds like more of a watch than a clock, but in any case, yeah, and it just adds to the intensity of the movie. It's those small details that really makes this film feel articulate and very well made. Dunkirk is a film that had me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. It's a great drama, and even though we don't really know much about the characters, we don't know their personal lives, or we don't know their love affairs, or whatever the case may be, I still find myself rooting for these characters, because the point of this movie is to show you that no one is more important than the other. All of these characters are in danger, and the whole mission is to try to escape this danger, and it's more of a psychological thriller too, in a sense, because this movie has been criticized as well because it wasn't rated R, you don't see limbs flying out, but in actuality, I don't think it really needed to be that way, because this film is more about the characters and how this situation is also psychologically affecting them. They're so horrified by what's going on, and they're willing to do anything to survive. Another thing that helps demonstrate that point is the fact that you hardly ever see the German soldiers in this film. You see planes, and at the very end of the movie you see some soldiers, but you don't even get a very good look in their faces. This is really about you being in a scenario with the soldiers on the beach. And I just think it makes the film feel that much more immersive. This film was nominated for Best Picture. It was Christopher Nolan's first time being nominated for Best Director. It was long overdue, but I'm glad it finally happened. He didn't win, but it's okay, because a nomination is good enough as far as I'm concerned. Dunkirk is an absolutely incredible film. The performances, which I haven't even talked about, they're all great. I don't know who stands out as the best, because I think this film in particular, there's not one actor that stands out as the best. Each actor complement each other very well. An interesting fact about this movie is that Christopher Nolan, while doing his research on the Dunkirk evacuation and by making this movie, he realized that there were a lot of soldiers that were young and experienced that were in this scenario. So because of that, he casted a lot of young actors who are not in many movies. I mean, yes, you have Kenneth Branagh, you have Tom Hardy, you have Cillian Murphy, but the soldiers on the beach, like Fionn Whitehead, I've never seen him before prior to Dunkirk. And Harry Styles, who is known for being in One Direction, he's in this movie. I believe it's his first movie appearance, if I'm not correct, and he's very good in the film, and so is everyone else. Dunkirk is an amazing film. It's a film about heroism. It's a film that gives you hope when you're in a scenario where it looks like there's no hope in sight. And it's just about humanity too, because it's an incredible story. I mean, just these civilians trying to rescue these soldiers. Yeah, in hindsight, it was a disaster in terms of the military and the mission, but you know, the fact that the civilians were able to rescue these people, 400,000 soldiers on the beach that they had to rescue, it's an incredible story, man. I'm glad Christopher Nolan brought it to life. Dunkirk is very different from anything Nolan has ever done, and I don't know if you're someone who loves The Dark Knight or Inception, you would necessarily love Dunkirk, because I know some people who have loved those movies but didn't necessarily like this film. This film, like I said, is very different from your traditional Nolan movie, but in my opinion, it's incredible. I'm going to give Dunkirk a 10 out of 10. Absolutely incredible war film. If you haven't seen this film yet, one, I would recommend that you go see it, and I would say don't go in expecting Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan again. This is not like Saving Private Ryan. This is very much its own thing. It's very different from that movie. And yeah, I absolutely love it. Okay guys, I have reviewed every single Christopher Nolan movie prior to Tenet. Now, as I'm filming this today, the news broke that Tenet has been delayed indefinitely. We don't know when the movie's coming out. It could be later this year. It could honestly be sometime in 2021. I am hoping, I am praying that it comes out later this year. But in any case, the plan is whenever the movie comes out, okay, I will be doing a review of Tenet on this channel, and I plan on ranking every Christopher Nolan movie, and because I want to. And you know, it's something that I figured would be a good thing to do since I've reviewed all of these movies. And yeah, I can't wait for that. I just hope it's sooner than later. So if it's sometime next year in July, I'm sorry that the video's going to be that late, but I can't really do anything about it. All I can do is just wait and see what happens. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on this 2-month journey of reviewing every Christopher Nolan film. I would like to think that I somehow inspired some people to check out his filmography. I understand most of his movies have been seen by the majority of the public, but movies like The Prestige or Insomnia, they're not really talked about as much in terms of Christopher Nolan films, so hopefully I got people to want to check those out. And in either case, if you're someone who has viewed every single one of these videos thus far, I appreciate you. You're a real one. And I will be reviewing Tenet whenever it comes out and doing that ranking video I'm talking about. Okay, that is the review of Dunkirk. I want to thank you guys so much for, again, joining me on this journey of reviewing Christopher Nolan films. And I don't know when's the next time I'm going to see you guys, but I hope it's sooner rather than later. And yeah, thank you guys for watching my review of Dunkirk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Okay, thank you. Bye.